The Asian Development Bank's Independent Evaluation Department annually publishes an evaluation review. This report not just reviews and provides recommendations on the performance of ADB operations, but also looks inward and highlights results and systemic issues from its independent evaluations.
The role of the Independent Evaluation Department of ADB is to determine the effectiveness of the operations of the institution. In other words, to establish what works, what doesn't, and why. Whether the institution is doing the right things and whether it's doing them right, in order to improve the impact of the operations on the ground. The annual evaluation review is a compendium of the knowledge that we have acquired during the year on how the institution is doing, how it is performing, and where is it that it is having the best or the worst impact and results, and why. We take this report and discuss it directly with the board so that they are aware of what in the end the institution is achieving with the huge investment of resources and human investment that we're doing in countries.
The 2019 Annual Evaluation Review shows steady improvements in the success rate of ADB's operations in Central and West Asia. However, the performance of some completed non-sovereign operations remain weak.
So in terms of project relevance, what it tries to measure is how well are these projects designed, how well are the results framework set up for these projects so as to capture the improvements that are happening on the ground, and how well are these projects aligned with the needs on the ground in terms of the government's priorities and in terms of ADB's corporate priorities. We feel the project relevance in terms of ADB projects are very good, continues to be very high, but have slightly declined. And the improvements to be had are on the project design side and in terms of improving quality at entry. In terms of sustainability, what it tries to capture is once the project is built and is up and running, what happens to the project 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? Are they going to be operating at the same level or are they going to deteriorate? So the measure of that is the project sustainability. So some of the important determinants that go into measuring project sustainability is the capacity of the counterparts who has to manage the project, if there is going to be budget for monitoring this project in an adequate fashion. And so we try to measure all that, and project sustainability has been and continues to be the lowest ranked evaluation criteria in ADB. The ADB's sovereign operations continue to be on an upward trend, but unfortunately on the non-sovereign side there are improvements to be had. The performance of non-sovereign operations for the 2016-2018 time period, the success rate is at 56%. Areas to improve include the performance of private equity funds and financial sector operations. And this is even more important with the upcoming Strategy 2030, which gives higher priority to private sector non-sovereign operations.
Under Strategy 2030, ADB plans to expand its vision to achieve a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific, while sustaining its efforts to eradicate extreme poverty. Let's now take a look at the progress ADB made in its key results areas.
This year, IED used the opportunity to assess the key evaluative findings against the newly launched ADB Strategy 2030. We looked at the 6 of the 7 key priority areas and 1 additional focus, which was expanding private sector operations. Let me just focus on 3 issues. For the first area of reducing poverty and inequality, ADB projects, particularly agriculture and rural development projects, have really contributed to the inclusive growth and smallholders development, but at a limited scale. Therefore, it didn't have a full impact on the whole value chain. For the second area of gender equality, it was found that the ADB supported efforts at the country level to mainstream gender equality in national policies and strategies and improved the business environment and economic opportunities for women. It was found in countries like Kyrgyz Republic, Uzbekistan, and Solomon Islands. For the third area, expanding private sector operations, an ADB initiative called Private Sector Development Initiative, or PSDI, over a decade had gradually made a great improvement in the SOE profitability, particularly in Pacific developing member countries.
Most multilateral development banks use corporate results framework to set impact and outcome targets, as well as operational and organizational management targets. 2019 Annual Evaluation Review carries a special chapter on a review of ADB's corporate results framework and the Development Effectiveness Review.
We decided to include this year in our annual review a chapter on the corporate results framework because ADB last year in 2018 approved a new long-term strategy for its operations, Strategy 2030. It is accompanied by a results framework which generally leads to an annual report on the progress made with operationalizing the strategy and implementing the strategy. Many organizations also in the private sector now use results frameworks and scorecards. ADB started in 2008. It was a question whether a scorecard could also work in a public organization like ADB, but the experience has been good. The whole review process leads to a much more systematic way to decision making. And of course evidence also needs to be used, and that's where IED also comes in, because the results of our work are also reflected in the results framework and in the scorecards.
And finally, the AER also provides an annual update on the implementation status of recommendations from Independent Evaluation Department high-level evaluations and came up with the following recommendations.
Well, the institution is already using it. I'm happy that the institution has incorporated a lot of the knowledge and points we're making on the use of corporate result frameworks for the design of the new corporate result framework that is about to be approved by the board. On the other hand, there is the never-ending task of continuing to improve the operations on the ground, the benefits that the institution is expected to derive and expected to deliver to countries and beneficiaries on the ground. And that, as I said, is a continuous, never-ending task.